This one is for the skeptics. Welcome, middlers, to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I take you on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. I am a Reiki master teacher, a spiritual and business mentor, and of course, a psychic medium. And I am here to share my story and help you tap into your extraordinary abilities. Join me every Wednesday as we dive into the realms of intuition, energy healing, and all things mystical. Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just dipping your toes into the magical waters, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiration, guidance, and a whole lot of lessons and laughter along the way. Let's get started. Hello, middlers. Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie. I am the Medium in the Middle. Welcome to episode 295. This one is for the skeptics. Now, I love a skeptic. I was a skeptic. I am a skeptic. I always believe that a healthy amount of questioning things is very good. But this week's episode was inspired by a Reiki student asking a question this weekend. I was teaching Reiki Level One, and the question came up around, how do we know the difference of if it's energy or if it just is something, On day 2 of Reiki Level 2, I ask how they're feeling, how they sleep, how was last night? And, people share, oh, I had a good sleep or a bad sleep. Oh, I had dreams, not dreams. Oh, I felt like this or like this. And the skeptics are, well, did I just have a bad sleep because I had a bad sleep, or did I have a bad sleep and it's related to Reiki? Well, did I just dream vividly because I was dreaming vividly, or did I dream vividly because of the Reiki course? So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about skepticism, and I also want to talk about how to move through it and why I think it is a very important piece in development. I believe that it's very natural and normal to be a skeptic of things, especially in the spiritual world. There is so much out there, and it does need to go through a filter of, is this real? Is this not real? Does this resonate? Does this not resonate? Is this for me? Is this not for me? But after a certain point, you are accepting things or you are rejecting things. So let's use mediumship as an example. In a mediumship reading, there is evidence that is presented to you, and there has to be enough evidence that you know that it's your loved one. If I were just to say your grandma's here, that means nothing. But if I were to say, oh, there's a woman who died in her late 60s, she's really sassy, she has short hair, I feel like she has 3 sisters, she would have loved her garden and being outside, I feel like she walked like 10 kilometers a day, she had 4 kids and 2 of them were daughters, and I believe she lived by a beach. Would you know this woman? Oh, that's your grandma. Okay. And even using this example, those first few pieces of evidence, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. Eventually, when you get on to evidence piece number 7, 8, 9, 10, there's no denying that that's your grandma. That person I just described either is or is not your grandma. However, with just the information of, I have a grandma here, even if we add a little bit more to beef up this example, I have a grandma here that died in her late 60s that has 3 sisters. Okay, the skeptics could say that's not enough information, that's random. And I would agree, you need, especially in mediumship, you need more validation than that. You need more evidence. Also are like, well, yeah, that's my grandma, yeah, that's my grandma, yeah, that's my grandma. So I am always on the air of prove it to me, but I will believe you. So I won't reject things. Even in readings that I've received that have gone bad, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, they were really off on this, but they did get this and this, right? So they were like kinda on the mark. And it's just putting this information through a lens of skepticism. But I want this week's episode to be focused on energy and your body, because as much as we want to check in with things, we also want to run it through a filter of, is this relevant? And that's where I feel like people miss the mark, is they don't run it through the filter of, is this relevant and why? So then things get missed for weeks and months and years and decades. So just quickly to let you know of upcoming events, there is a PM mediumship practice circle next week, February 18th. And there is an AM practice circle on February 28th if you're a developing medium. As always, all levels are welcome. No experience is needed. It can be your first time. You can just try your best. No one is expecting anything from you. The next Reiki Level 2 is February 21st and 22nd. And the March Reiki trainings are also up. I will leave those linked down below. All the links you need are down below in the show notes. So when I'm teaching about Reiki Level 1, I am teaching about your energy. And I always say we start at home. We have to understand your body, your energy, and we are listening for your body's alarm bells. And when I teach this and when I use the chakras, I give examples. If you hurt your back, if you've broken your arm 3 times, if you have a constant pain in your shoulder, if you clench your jaw, if your shoulder bothers you sometimes, if your stress sits in a certain area, these are all signs from your body that I highly recommend you listen to and get curious about what they mean. And I always like to use sickness when people get sick. It's like, well, when did you get sick? When did it start? When did it end? What are your symptoms? What's going on? And now I'm not saying that every time you get sick, there's a meaning. Every time you hurt your foot, there's a meaning. Every time your back hurts, there's a meaning. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, once you just want to check, hey, is my back hurting trying to tell me something? Is this an alarm bell that I may be ignoring? Is there something I should be paying attention to? So when I say that I believe that there should be a level of skepticism, I'm not saying, oh, my back is hurting, so this instantly means this, and I'm not going to question it at all. However, I do think it should go through a lens of questioning of, is this relevant? Have I felt it before? Should I investigate? Can I ask myself a few quick questions to see if my back pain is trying to alarm bell me for something? Or am I just going to ignore this and pass it off as nothing and keep rolling? And then when my back pain comes back in 2 weeks, I'm going to forget that it was there 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to roll that off as nothing too. And then when it comes back 3 weeks later, maybe I remember it happened before, but it's probably nothing. And then when it comes back in a month, even worse, oh, I must have done something for my back. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to do anything about that either. And then things compound and now you're just ignoring things. So I want this episode to be about a normal amount of skepticism versus ignoring things and not running them through a filter of, is this relevant? Is this something I should be paying attention to? Especially when it comes to your energy. I had a few students in class that were like, I'm skeptical that what if my hands were just warm? I'm skeptical, what if my body was just tingling? I'm skeptical, what if I just had vivid dreams? And I said, great, those are all wonderful things. I love a skeptic. I was a skeptic. I am a skeptic. And what I am saying to you is just to run it through a filter. Okay, maybe you had randomly vivid dreams this night because of your attunements. See if it happens again the next night. See if it happens again the next night. We're always looking for patterns. Okay, maybe your hands randomly got warm when you were doing Reiki. See what happens next time. See what happens next time. And the piece de resistance here is that if it happens 10 times, 20 times, now it's not random. Now you've proven to yourself, hey, my hands get warm every time I do Reiki. Hey, I yawn every time Spirit's here. Hey, my back hurts every time I'm stressed at work. Hey, my knee hurts every time I'm doing too much. Why? Because it's happened the last 10, 20, 30 times and I've been paying attention instead of just ignoring it. So when we hear things like, oh, you're getting in your own way, what I see, especially in energy work, is people not paying attention and people not writing things down. So they haven't even noticed that it's happened 10, 20, 30 times. We all love to think that we'll remember. But what did you have for lunch on Saturday? Exactly. You don't even know. So you don't remember what happened last week, last month, 3 months ago. You don't know how many times your knee has bothered you. You don't know when it started and when it ended. You're not paying attention to when it gets worse and when it gets better. But as soon as you start paying attention, you're collecting evidence to prove to yourself that it's, again, you're accepting it or you're denying it. And that's what I want this episode to be about. I want you to look for evidence to either prove things to you or deny things for you. If your light flickers every time you ask if it's dad, it might be dad. If your light only flickered once if you asked if it was dad, okay, maybe no. And I don't find that people really get trapped in the evidence. I find they get trapped in not paying attention to the evidence. So yes, if something happened 30 times and you're still like, maybe I'm making it up. Okay, that's a you problem now, and that's fine. You can maybe be making it up 30, 40, 50 times, but that's evidence that it's happened 30, 40, or 50 times. So when we say in spirituality to notice everything, we are trying to just see what's happening. And if we're not noticing and if we're not paying attention, then we can't find the patterns, then we can't track the patterns, then we can't see, has this happened 30 times before? And those 30 times are probably going to take, 6 months to happen. So it's taking you time to track these habits, but I want you to prove to yourself that you are correct. Prove to yourself that whatever it is, if it's your body trying to tell you something, if it's mediumship, it's like, okay, well, I don't know if I believe this, but the last 11 practice readings I've done, they've all been correct. Okay, well, let me do 11 more practice readings and see if those are all correct too. I've run through this process for every new service I've ever added, especially in the spiritual space. When I first started distance Reiki, I didn't believe it. I was like, how does distance Reiki work? It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. My brain doesn't understand. It doesn't work. So, with my skeptical brain, what did I do? I ran control groups. I'm a Capricorn. 30 people. 10 people I knew. 10 people I had done Reiki on before. 10 people, complete strangers from the internet. I did those 30 sessions. All 30 people said they felt something. They all felt great. They had all this feedback, this, that, and the third. And I'm sitting here like, those 30 people are lying to me. So then I opened the floodgates and I booked 18 more practice distance Reiki sessions because I wasn't convinced. I wasn't convinced. My brain didn't understand. I just was like, those 30 people could be lying to me just to be nice, And this is, 7 years later, I still vividly remember in my journal, I was writing number 48. I wrote number 48, period. They said it worked. They said they felt something. They said they felt better. And I lifted my head and I thought, well, 48 people probably aren't lying to me. So maybe I have to accept this evidence as truth. Maybe distance Reiki works even if my brain doesn't fully understand it. Maybe mediumship works because the last 100 times I've been right. Maybe mediumship works because there's no way that I could know that your grandma died in her late 60s and she had 3 siblings and she had 4 kids and she had a garden and she was sassy and she walked 10K a day. I could have made up maybe one of those things, maybe 2. But to get all 10 of those things right, that's evidence that I can now not deny. So I want this episode to be a reminder that it is healthy and normal to be a skeptic, to double check things, to wonder, to question. That is a normal human behavior. And I highly recommend that your outlook is, I'm collecting evidence that is either proving something to me that's correct or incorrect. All of these things are right or they're not right. These things happen or they don't happen. I'm seeing patterns or I'm not seeing patterns. I just cannot stress enough that patterns take months, 6 months. We want to see how often does it happen? Every week? Every Friday? Every other Friday? How many times are you practicing? What's going on? How often do you get stressed for you to even notice that your back does XYZ when it's stressed? If you're only stressed once every 2 weeks, that's only twice a month. Well, in 6 months, that's only 12 times. Maybe that's enough evidence to collect, but you probably need more than 12 times to figure out a pattern. So I really loved that these students brought it up this weekend because we got to talk about this and just share that, hey, it's normal. You should be skeptical. You should question, am I just dreaming because I'm dreaming or am I dreaming because it's relevant? And my recommendation is to just run it through a filter of, is this relevant? Yes or no. Does everything have to be relevant? No. But wouldn't you rather just double check to see if it is? Because if it is, pay attention to it. If it isn't, leave it alone and move on. So I do like to run everything through a filter of, is this relevant? Is my body trying to tell me something? Should I be listening? Am I ignoring something? Am I not noticing a pattern? And this was highlighted in my life recently on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so 2 days after. I was sitting in a booth at a bar, and we had like lots of people in the booth. Probably it was a 4-person booth with 6 people in it. And we had friends coming and going, and I was getting up out of the booth to say hi to a friend, and I don't know why I decided to fling myself out of the booth. But I went to go jump up, and I hit the corner of the booth hard on my thigh. Like I instantly fell into the booth, and I like keeled over in pain. I went to the bathroom, and I have a huge purple bruise on my thigh. And I just thought, oh, that's so weird that I flung myself up from a booth, randomly hit the corner, and then now I have this massive bruise on my leg. So I only notice the bruise when I'm leaning on something. So when I go to do the dishes, when I'm doing my makeup, when I'm leaning in, when I'm brushing my teeth. And it kept, again, just triggering something, my bruise. And I haven't had a bruise like this in years, decades. Like I don't injure myself. I don't get hurt with bruises like that. My common injury is I'll hurt my back. I don't drop things. I don't get hurt. Like this is very, very, very unusual for me to have a massive bruise that I did to myself. I was quickly getting up from the table, something I normally wouldn't do. I don't even know why I was jumping up. It was to see someone that I had already seen that day. Nonetheless, of how we got here, I have a bruise on my thigh. So on Monday, I was off. I spent all day just hanging out, watching TV, my new hobby, now that I have 2 days off. And it was about 10:30 p.m. and I was folding some laundry, getting ready for bed. And I again saw the bruise because I was putting on my pajamas. And I was surprised it took me 24 hours, honestly. I'm a little embarrassed to say that it took me 24 hours. But I was looking at my bruise thinking, number one, it's getting worse. But number two, why did I get a bruise? Why did I get a bruise on my left thigh? Why did I hurt myself? I never hurt myself. This doesn't happen. This is so unlike me. Why haven't I been thinking about this all day? So I grabbed my phone because, Google's in all of our pockets, and I looked up meaning of the left thigh, bruises, meaning, is there something I'm not seeing here? Just doing a little bit of research, seeing if anything resonates. And through this research, something resonated, and I was like, oh. And it was something that had happened that day that this bruise is representing. And just the way everything lined up now with this meaning, going back to my Sunday, what I saw, who I was with, the order of operations, I was like, okay, I understand. And now that I understand why I have a left thigh bruise, it's just brought that to my attention. It's bringing something to my awareness that I would have ignored. I was ignoring it for sure. Am I saying that I got the bruise in order for me to learn this lesson? No. But I have the bruise, so I might as well check and be like, why is my body purple right now? Every time I lean on something, again, leaning forward, that's when it hurts. When I'm leaning forward, that's when it hurts. What am I avoiding moving forward on? My left thigh, that's about me, left side, and I'm avoiding moving forward on something. So it just got me thinking. So now every time I lean forward on something, it's like counter height where the bruise is, I'm reminded of, oh yeah, my body's trying to tell me something. Oh yeah, you were trying to ignore something, and here's a giant purple bruise that you see. Every time I go to the bathroom, there it is, getting more black and blue as the days go on. However, could I have just said, oh, it's a bruise, it means nothing? Yes. However, I know bruises are unusual for me. The way that I got this massive bruise on my leg was also unusual. The fact that it's bad and getting worse as the days go on. So it took me 24 hours to be like, oh yeah, let me check if this is relevant for anything. Based on this evidence, it might be relevant for something. So that's my only suggestion. Run it through a filter of, is this relevant? Is it not? Is this evidence for or against? Is this proving to myself I'm always right? Or is this proving to myself it means nothing? And I've done countless episodes on this podcast of don't get into the car accident, don't drop the peanut butter. All of these examples of, I knew I was right. I knew I was going to get into the car accident. I knew I was going to drop the peanut butter. Countless examples of stories like that. And the lesson is eventually you don't get in the car accident anymore to say, I was right. Eventually you take the other route home. You don't get in the car. You wait 10 minutes. You don't have to drop the peanut butter to clean up the peanut butter to say, I knew the peanut butter was going to fall. Eventually you just move the peanut butter. However, the beauty of this is you get to clean up the peanut butter as many times as you want. You can get into as many car accidents as you wish until you listen. Hey, I've been right the last 50 times. I'm probably right again. I'm not getting into the car. Hey, I've been right the last 75 times. I'm probably right. I'm just going to move the peanut butter and err on the side of caution. So this episode is for the skeptics out there. I believe it's healthy, it's normal, we all do it, but you are collecting the evidence. If you aren't collecting evidence, then you're getting in your own way and you're just ignoring sign after sign after sign. But if you are paying attention, yes, prove to yourself that your intuition is right. Prove to yourself that you are connected with spirit. Prove to yourself that that is your dad. Do all of these things to prove it. And once it's proven, you have to accept it. That's the hard part. So thank you very much for this weekend's Level 1 students, for inspiring this week's episode and for getting this conversation going, because I know we all feel this way. I felt this way. I've done many, many episodes about this, but I wanted to just give something tangible for the skeptics. Collect your evidence. Prove to yourself yay or nay. Don't ignore evidence and don't pass everything up as, that's probably nothing. Oh, am I just dreaming? Oh, did I just get a bruise? Oh, did I just stub my toe? Oh, that's just probably nothing. Or it could be something, and maybe you should just check. So that's what I have for you this week. If you aren't already, follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. I'm also on TikTok and Substack, everywhere, Medium in the Middle. I will leave all the links down below in the show notes. If you want to register for a Reiki training, a mediumship practice circle, I will also leave the links to book with me, either virtually or in person here in beautiful Banff, Alberta. Maybe send this to a skeptical friend who needs the reminder to start collecting evidence to prove to themselves they're right or wrong. Spoiler, you're usually right. But until next Wednesday, Middlers, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, everybody.